The United States of America, a nation in deep economic decline and with an increased polarization. The US stayed neutral during the Weltkrieg and would pay for its isolation. With their victory in the Weltkrieg, Germany has slowly chipped away markets in Europe, Asia and Africa and has imposed tariffs on US goods, damaging our exports. Our investments in Britain were gone after the revolution broke out, and with our decision to normalize relations with the syndicalists, we have spawned our very own syndicalist movement, the longists. A branch of the Democratic Party united by their support for Louisiana governor turned senator Huey Pierce Long are increasing their influence within the party. With these economic issues and with this increased polarization, the USA now stands before one of its most important elections. The question is not who will win the elections, but rather will anyone win the elections? Will these results tear the country apart? Only time will tell. And so we begin here in 1936. We're currently ruled by the Democratic Party, with L. Smith being the president. However, as you can already see, the Democratic Party is a bit divided here. And you will also see this does not look very great for us, does it? Our pie chart is very colorful. Yeah. Well, right now we're trying to put forward the Social Security Act, our last chance for any new significant legislation before the elections. But if this will actually go through, we will see. I mean, as long as, no significant economic disaster happens, somewhere here, that will destroy our economy even further. Because, as said in the intro, our economy is not looking great. We've been pushed out of all the major markets, and our, biggest trading partners are no more. Anyway, we don't really start with many divisions, mainly because, we don't have anything where we will be needing, divisions. We will be constructing, for no particular reason, a few factories down here in the south. Like I said, no reason. I just feel like it. And this right here will be our starting research, and our starting production line. Doesn't really matter that much, honestly. I guess what you can do, though, is just produce guns. I mean, we can also sell some convoys. These nations love buying convoys. But yeah, this will be everything for now. Let us begin. The second session of the 74th Congress. Well, like I said, we're trying to pass our last major legislation before the elections, the Social Security Bill. However, both the left side of the political spectrum and the right side of the political spectrum are not happy with the Social Security Bill, because the left think it's too little, while the right thinks it's an overreach. And we already had to cobble up a majority for the bill last year due to Democratic losses in the 1934 midterms. However, the president wants this bill to pass. The creation of an old age benefits system would represent one last substantial victory for the administration, and it would also undercut the rhetoric of Smith's political opponents, both within and outside the Democratic Party. So let's get this done. Reid announces Congress. The Socialist Party chairman and Congressional Caucus leader John Reid has denounced the institution to which he is elected, denouncing bourgeois parliamentarism as a mere facade for the rule of Wall Street and big business. He wants a new form of government, which is led by the industrial unions and workers' councils, similar to what you see in the syndicalist states of Europe. However, a lot of other figures within the Socialist Party are a bit more moderate, because they don't want to strain their relationship with farmer labor, because the Socialist Party is in a coalition with farmer labor, or more or less they work together under the label farmer labor. So their candidates are elected on the farmer labor ballot line. If this coalition will stay together, only time can tell. Long speaks on the Social Security Bill. While he's always been unhappy with the presidency of L. Smith, he has not really said much on the Social Security Bill, only that it's an overreach and that it's prone to abuse. He rather advocates for a model proposed by Dr. Francis Townsend, as well as his own Share Our Wealth scheme. However, his lack of outright opposition to the bill is a good sign for us, so let's hope everything goes smoothly. Violence in Harlan County. Well, But in Harlem, the miners are treated not very great. So they have a history with striking. However, these strikes are oftentimes put down with violence. However, recently the IWW has been organizing in Harlan County in Kentucky, which has led to more acts of violence. Alarming. Black Monday, it's America. Catastrophe. The Berlin stock market crash has also led to the New York stock market dying, falling. And now many workers are planning a strike in retaliation, and a lot of other people are already protesting due to the predictable upcoming waves of terminations and wage cuts. Well, this is just not our year. I mean, it's not that bad because, not a lot of people were investing, but it still is getting worse. The Social Security dies in committee. Well, what was meant to be the crowning jewel of the president's final years in office has now been shifted away due to other problems being currently a bit more important. This has not been a great week. Rubber workers on strike. Well, rubber workers and some sympathetic citizens have begun to strike in Akron, Ohio. However, this strike has been quickly put down by the local deputies and an associated organization of thugs and paramilitaries. However, this violence has now spread, and a lot of unions, even the moderate ones, have now begun to strike. It's 1877 all over again. But as if the problematic economic decline wasn't bad enough, the strikes are now intensifying. The blame game. Our administration is on the verge of collapse, and whereas the Democratic Party is seemingly splitting apart with long intensifying attacks against Smith and transparently trying to find an angle with which to run for president later this year. President Smith has now called a special session of Congress to pass emergency relief legislation. So let's hope to God it's enough. Well, let us introduce the Garner-McNary bill. Garner-McNary bill introduced. With the blessing of President Smith, Republican Senator Charles McNary and Speaker of the House John Nance Garner have introduced a new unemployment relief legislation package. Many in Congress feel that the package does not go nearly far enough, while others wonder how America, in the midst of a massive economic crisis, will possibly ever pay for it. The presence of senators from the former Labour Party, particularly in the SPA, as well as those aligned with Huey Long, complicates things immensely. Even with Smith's support, it's unknown if Garner-McNary has a real chance of passing. Well, we shall see. Escalation of violence in Harlan. Well, with Black Monday, the violence already happening in Harlan has now intensified, and many want an intervention by the government to alleviate things and stop Harlan from turning into a total war zone. But who's to blame for the violence? Well, there are fingers pointing to each side. Many blame Middleton for his actions of escalating the violence and suggest that a congressional committee look into the matter. On the other hand, the IWW is a very militant and radical organization, so they could also be blamed for escalating into a two-sided shooting. Well, Middleton is to blame. Investigate Harlan. Long and farmer labor demand changes. Well, the longest and farmer labor are not happy about the Garner-McNary bill, so let's see what comes from that. The Lafayette Committee. Well, this committee is currently investigating Harlan and to see who's to blame for the violence and, hopes to end the violence in Harlan there. So let's hope it helps. Senators break ranks. Well, after weeks of negotiations, a number of establishment senators have broken ranks over the coming vote on the Garner-McNary bill. This is very problematic because we will need a majority to pass the bill. So let's force the establishment to compromise with the longists. Compromise with Long. We've done what we can. Long campaigns for the Democratic nomination. That was to be expected. Lafayette Committee hears reports of abuses in Harlan. Well, this is a systematic issue. We must change our approach to labor conflicts. Voting commences on the Garner-McNary bill, and the bill is approved. The Garner-McNary bill passes. A victory for us all. Rumors of weapons smuggling in Harlan. The state troopers are insufficiently resourced. Reinforce them. Funding for Mount Rushmore? Well, let's allocate funds for Mount Rushmore. Mass layoffs. Well, I can't blame them for holding a grudge. Yeah, our economy is still not looking great. The siege of Harlan. Well, the IWW and the local anti-union militia are duking it out again in Harlan. And to, stop the violence from her increasing, we have to negotiate. Negotiation is needed. The miners' position. Well, we have received their non-negotiable demands in exchange for laying down their arms. The demands include federal protection of their right to organize, company recognition of the IWW as their union, the arrest of Sheriff Middleton and other members of the anti-union militia, and the disarming and disbanding of said militia and its component private forces. Well, to end the violence, we accept their conditions. Harlan miners stand down. Peace at last, I suppose. The Farmer Labor National Convention. Lloyd Olson is nominated again. Olson's acceptance speech. Is this Farmer Labor's year? The boiling pot. Well, Harlan County is still boiling with violence, and yeah. In other news, 2 more have died in a shooting in Harlan. The Republican National Convention. The party brass get their way. Landon gets the nod. Landon's acceptance speech. Can the center hold? The Democratic National Convention. Well, the Democratic Party is in a very sorry state right now, but the only happy man right now is Huey Long, because he hopes to finally get the Democratic nomination. Well, there are many, of course, opposing Huey Long, and these oppositions have basically united themselves solely as a anti-Long force. There were various candidates that could oppose Long, like Joe T. Robinson, the Vice President, or the Secretary of Commerce, Herbert Hoover, or, lastly, the Secretary of State, Cordell Hull. Well, this will be a very intense national convention, but at the end the nomination goes to Convention Brawl. Well, yes, the very tense convention has resulted in a brawl. It began with Long's brother Earl, who swore at Vice President Robinson before being caught up in a brief fistfight with him. This incident ultimately proved the last straw for Long's supporters, who proceeded to leave the convention en masse. And afterwards, a new round of voting will be held, now with a convention much friendlier to the administration. They elected Robinson for the presidency. What madness! Well, the Kingfish Huey Long is now trying to split from the Democratic Party and run with his newly created party. However, he needs a vice president. There are 2 options. First, a close Senate colleague and friend, Montana's Burton Key Wheeler. However, Wheeler would alienate the Southern Bloc that almost gave Long the Democratic nomination. Or he could make up for his promise he made to Governor of Georgia, Eugene Talmadge. These 2 have formed an alliance in the South, but over the years have grown apart. Well, at the end, Long chooses Wheeler. Wheeler will solidify our progressive bona fides. The Union Party Convention. He's really set on burning things down. The bar house is increasingly getting divided. Businesses collapse. It's all spiraling down. Am I allowed to have an economy? Hello? The disappearance of Alfred M. Landon. Well, as we know, election is approaching, so every party is intensifying its election campaigns. However, while the Republican Party is, of course, also intensifying its election campaign, a crucial person is missing from these campaigns: Alfred M. Landon. His refusal to travel in his campaign or speak out much has led to people making fun of that by posting, missing posts about him as if he had disappeared. This is not really great for the Republican campaigns, so yeah. Charles Lindbergh endorses Long, a useful idiot. The young bull moose. Well, the vice president of the Republicans is none other than Quentin Roosevelt, the youngest son of Theodore Roosevelt. Interesting news. Closing arguments. Nothing left to do but wait. Maritime workers on strike. I think I've heard enough union hymns for a lifetime. The 1936 election, and the results are in. No party has won a majority of the electoral vote, so now a contingent election will be held in Congress. The worst possible outcome of all. Accusations of fraud. No one is happy with the election outcome. November is never going to end, is it? The Conservative Coalition, an unofficial alliance of conservatives from the Republican and Democratic Party. They're free to voice their opinions too. Strike wave intensifies. Our reward for 8 years helping them. Electoral college meets. Well, the electors now vote for the president. However, as there's no clear majority, contingent elections in Congress to separately elect the president and vice president have to be held. An inauspicious end to the year. Bottoming out. How much farther can we fall? Yeah. Vice President Robinson dies. Oh, rest in peace. Workers seize General Motors plants. How long do we have until it all boils over? The 75th Congress. Well, the 75th Congress will result in a deadlock. Electoral chaos. What the hell are they doing? Midnight, as no majority could be found and no president could be elected, Cordell Hull, the Secretary of State, will become the acting president. God help us all. Yes. Government paralysis. Can't people be reasonable here? Long denounces Congress. Who else is there? Midwestern state governments assume authority. This can't go on forever. Detroit commune forms. Something has to give. War Plan White activated. With the federal government losing complete control over regions of the country, Hull has heeded the advice of General Douglas MacArthur. War Plan White, the military counterinsurgency plan intended for an eruption of overwhelming domestic unrest, has been activated with some modifications. Hull has also stepped down as acting president in favor of MacArthur. Welp, the die is cast. General Butler marches on Washington. Not everyone is, of course, happy with MacArthur seizing power and activating War Plan White. So, in the early hours of the morning, a contingent of Marines led by General Smedley Butler had marched towards DC. Butler's socialist sympathies are well known, so rumors spread that he was trying to seize power for the Socialist Party. However, our quick mobilization of forces in Washington led to him redirecting his march towards Philadelphia, where he declared the city under martial law and freed local socialists that were jailed. This has now led to a Red Scare. Workers seize state capitals. A house divided cannot stand. And now the Workers' Congress convenes in Chicago. It looks like the socialists are now in open rebellion, taking with them all these states. Congress confirms MacArthur's appointment. We need hard men for hard times. And now Huey Long declares rival government in Baton Rouge. We shall of course stand with the country. And now we are the American People's Government, led by the Kingfish, Huey Pierce Long. Let's start with from a militia to a fighting force. We will be needing more military factories, so let's build more. This will now, reform the production line here. And yeah, now we can recruit local militias, which we will definitely have to do. Let's see where we get the most from. It's up there. And now a standoff in America. It seems that there's a four-way civil war now happening, with the Constitutional Coalition revolting in the Pacific states against MacArthur's military seizure. Southern governors meet in Baton Rouge. Well, of course, it does kind of seem, Southern rebellion, remember the Civil War. So when a large crowd gathered outside the State House in Baton Rouge to congratulate Huey Long for defying the federal government, there were also a lot of people waving the battle flag of the old Confederacy. However, Huey Long quickly acted and had these radical symbols of the Civil War seized. And now he's meeting with the governors to discuss a proper response to the federal government's deadline. A close call. Lindbergh appeals to Long. Leading industrialists of America will probably have to close down their factories in the Southern Territories due to their allegiance to the federal government. However, Charles Lindbergh has appealed to them and is now trying to convince Huey Long to agree to the demand of them and, get them to his side. However, Huey Long will not betray his ideals. Well, it seems we've secured our territory here in the south now. Well, the deadline looms. What comes shall come. And now the Second American Civil War has begun. Not again. Let's immediately try and advance. Oh, Canada has moved into New England. I'm gonna go with mostly reform plan because I wanna go with grand battle plan. Well, great news, guys. The strong nation of Paraguay is supporting us. Well, it seems that the Canadians have supported the constitutionalists. Now I will be hiring Patton here just because I want, this guy here, cheaper doctrine. We do like that. Alright, finally I can appoint him and, get cheaper doctrines. So yeah, that's much better. And by the way, I made this guy into an infantry high command advisor, so let's recruit him. Well, looks like the federal government has already fallen. Now let's fight over territory. Let us recruit a spy master, because I want more spies. Alright, there goes a huge portion of the Constitutionalists' volunteer force. And also some of their own units, so that's great for me, man. Alright, let us recruit Wheeler, the backroom backstabber, for political power. Let us recruit the army recruiter, because manpower is a bit problematic right now. More syndicalist divisions encircled. Also a supply up here, which I desperately need. Plus, we almost captured all of the mountainous area here, which is great. I hate this area, man. We're like, yeah, we're holding here. It's fine. Grand Battle Plan will save us. And now I've cut off their access to the sea, basically. We'll focus on killing this off now, and afterwards I don't think they can receive more equipment from the syndicalists. I did have my submarines here, but yeah, all my submarines died. This right here is the bronze I produced, which I hoped would refill them, but they died faster than I could refill them. I mean, at least you got a lot of experience through it. No naval invasion, because I don't have naval supremacy, but... Oh well, New York will now be falling, and we are finally getting some aid, man. First, the best nation, the most grandest nation of Paraguay, sending us equipment and volunteers. Afterwards, the Germans, and now the Russians. Yeah, Brazil also. I forgot Brazil, sorry. The Mexicans are intervening. Alright, do you see the declaration of war about my army, cleaned up here and moved down there then? Just in time. Oh, they just also declared war on these guys, so that's great for me, honestly. But yeah, I want to finish off the Congress first. For your interest, by the way, here are the losses of all of them. Well, Detroit has fallen, and I've encircled more troops in Indianapolis also. And yeah, just a few more cities, and I think they're gonna collapse. Yep, that's that, and now they're dead. Great. Well, most of the battle plan should be fine now, so let's do an offensive. Well, I'm advancing into Mexico, and these guys, I think this is a done deal. Like how Mexico is falling before the Constitutionalists. Will this be enough? Yeah. Bye-bye, Mexico. Shouldn't have get yourself involved in this useless endeavor. My brother in Christ, I was the one to fully conquer them. What are you trying to fight over? You're dying anyway. I would be more concerned with that one. Alright, army reformed for another great push, and that will probably be the end of these guys then. They had already suffered a lot of desertions, so, easier for me. Anyway, Mexico's now under our fold. Now they should capitulate. Alright. The end of the Second American Civil War. The real America still stands. Well, now we are Huey Long's United States of America. I'm gonna stop this focus, honestly. Don't care. So now, let us rebuild the country. Yay, achievement. The triumph of the people. By the people, for the people. Well, and now we are fighting for the Philippines, so let's do that. The American Legion appointment. Let's appoint Fox Connor. The Democratic reunification. Let us all come together. Great. Now we are back at the Democrats. Nope, let's move the capital back to Washington, D.C. All hail the Kingfish. The Kingfish is victorious. A special session of Congress. We are debating if we want to immediately implement the Share Our Wealth program. Many are calling for Huey Long to do it now, so he will acquiesce, let the bill pass. Alright, let us try and reclaim Hawaii. Well, Hawaii rejoins America. I did improve relations with Canada and Hawaii in the hopes of that doing something, which I probably did. Would you look at that? We were triumphant in the Philippines. With these treaties, we will bind them to us. And now they're back in our fold. What the hell? Well, we have now illegalized strikes. I will now try and root out the traitors, because I want to, start getting rid of that. But looks like the Fengtian government has cut ties with Japan. Why don't we support them? Schism in Share Our Wealth societies. There's a debate if we should keep Share Our Wealth as a non-governmental entity or have it under the government's control. The two debating here are Macmeth, a Marine veteran, and Townsend, the old guard leader. Well, we will side with Macbeth. Early mobilization. Well, let's fight the Federalists and the Socialists. Oh well, it looks like delegation cities have chosen a very radical path. Partial mobilization. Oh, the Second Weltkrieg has begun, by the way. I didn't see that one. Yeah, Austria's gone. Accusations of crypto-socialism. well, the share wealth program has been accused as being a crypto-socialist program. However, Hui Long has defended the share wealth program and saying that its primary objective is to address the stark disparities in wealth distribution and ensure a more equitable society. He also argued that the program is rooted in populism and a commitment of lifting millions of Americans out of poverty. They just don't appreciate a good thing. Superman versus the Klan. Kids love it. Governor Long fires on protesters. Hui Long's brother has done goofed up. I will not cover for him. Attend the funerals of the protesters. Alright, time to implement a 4-day work week. Well, it's time to implement the main parts of our Share Our Wealth program. These 4 focuses right here. However, these will cost us immensely, but we're ready to pay. Patriotic mass education. Restoration of Russian trade. That's nice. And now for the poor man. Let us also increase conscription. Well, of course, Hui Long has won the 1940 presidential election. Congratulations, Hui Pierce Long. And now for the federal farm grants. Alright, I've readied my troops and also have a war goal I justified for a claim that they took from me, I think, Guam. So now let us begin the rescue operation for China. That's what I'm doing here, right? Yep. I don't care if Japan imperialism splits like down here or something. We gotta rescue China, man. You don't understand. Started a submarine blockade, so, you know, Japanese forces will get hungry. And lastly, war on the seas. Up and now Washington's inheritor. And now, yeah, we have ticking, posts. Statehood for Alaska? Sure. New state, new me. Alright, we successfully landed. All you guys go down there, please. Thank you. You go there. And then let's try and advance here. Alright, mission rescue China successful. Now, mission to destroy the rest of Japan. That was not hard. Yeah. Bye-bye Japan. Alright, let's release a transitional government for Japan. Fate of the Emperor. What if we abolish the entire imperial institution? Statehood for Hawaii? Sure. Another new state. Alright, I wanted to train my army a bit more, or like, you know, have more divisions on the field, because New England has like claims everywhere here, so I have the feeling they will refuse. So to be sure, I want more soldiers. Let's see what they will say now. Yep, okay. Well, that sucks. Alright, let's declare war on them. Statehood for Puerto Rico. Well, let's make it a state. Oh, and that's that stuff completely done. And now we get our cool bonuses. And we got rid of recovering economy, or recovering after civil war, whatever it was called. Let's reconstruct finally. Okay, finally they're capping. What? Okay, this had been pretty problematic because they just had a shit ton of troops, but I got more troops, and my air force kinda carried most for the most war. Okay, now let's destroy Canada. Oh, Canada wants to peace out. Very well, let's end this. My enemy number 1 are the syndicalists. Okay, well, they don't have a navy now. Should've just let me raid the convoys, man. Idiots. Ah, finally completely reunified. America is reunited. A more perfect union. That's what you like to see. Yeah, we got a channel back. Alright, let's finally start some trials about... how long has been since we, are done with the Civil War? Very interesting developments right here. Apparently the Federalists are having one of the biggest comebacks in history. They were merely just squeeze it down there, and now they've conquered all of the south and are advancing northwards. Welp, there goes Russia. Alright, I'm gonna spare the Federalist generals, and I will enter the fray. And we shall also spare the Constitutionalist generals. I'm gonna save a war with Germany for the next time I play the USA, where I, play a faction more, hostile to Germany. Alright, let's join the war against the syndicalists. Excuse me, who landed this? So yeah, I landed in Chile, and killing them right now. Don't think they will last much longer. I think more than Chile just died. Well, there goes England. They're up, and immediately afterwards they follow. Alright, one more target, one more red nation to get rid of in the Americas. Up there goes the last red-colored nations. And yeah, that's what I did. I give a lot of stuff to Paraguay for helping me out in the Civil War. And yeah, I would end it here now because there's nothing else to do really. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching and I hope you enjoyed it. And please like, subscribe and leave a comment and see you next time. Goodbye. They're still fighting.